Hey guys, this is Alex Krupski, joined again by my co-host, good friend Jake Hoffman. We are joined today in episode 4 of the Millennials in Print podcast by our good friend Doug Riemer over at Burton Mayer. And Doug, I should have had your title in there, but I honestly forgot what it was.
Sales.
So why don't we just kick it off like that?
We can just do a generic sales.
Thanks for joining in the first place.
Not
sorry
a problem.
About that, but why don't you kick it off and give us some of your background,
That's
a little
cool.
intro.
Well, I've been in the business 38 years. I know. I started when I was 4. And the funny thing is, I've been at the same company. I've been with Burton Mayer, sheetfed printer here in town for that entire time. I started when I was 17. My father at the time was head production manager and head pressman at Burton Mayer when they were located in downtown Milwaukee. I started sweeping floors and mixing ink and getting my background in production and floated through there in different departments. Got some background on press and bindery and pre-press. As I went through college at UW-Milwaukee, the owner at that time of Burton Mayer, Tim Burton, had offered me a job in sales after I got out of college, and I never left. So it's kind of a crazy story. In today's day and age, most people don't stay at one company, for that long a time. But it's great family-owned business, 4th generation, and really good people.
Awesome. So, yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, Burton is actually kind of our next-door neighbor.
Yes.
They were so far away, so they decided they needed to get closer to us. So they moved within T-shot of us nowadays. So can you just kind of talk a little bit about like what specifically you guys focus on?
Sure.
As far as Burton's kind of like sweet spot?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we're basically a sheet-fed shop from digital all the way through 26 by 40 inch equipment through 8 colors. So it's the same offset printing type of concept as a Randall, except you guys are web-based and we're sheet-fed. We do a wide variety of types of products, from direct mail to some packaging to just tons of literature and packets and pocket folders, pretty much filling a gap from what I'd call like a medium-sized sheet-fed firm. And once in a while we do bump into quantities of web runs, but that's just all based on type of project and quality that's wanted, in terms of the look of the piece and the type of paper it's on. So yeah, I'd say our sweet spot is probably anywhere from a few impressions in our digital department to, honestly, it could be a couple 100,000 impressions. So it's a wide gamut.
Cool. This might be a little bit of a tricky question, but obviously you've been in the business 38 years. Started when you were 4.
Yep.
What do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen so far in the industry? I know with like COVID right around the corner.
Yeah.
Have you seen kind of anything similar, like an event that's similar to that?
I mean, I can't point to one specific one in my whole career, but obviously there have been dips in the economy, some recessions along the way. I think those are the biggest things that hurt our industry. It really does. Sure, printers ebb and flow. You have to find new products. You have to find new ways to print your product and to offer that to your customers. And maybe it's not just print. Maybe it's it's multi-channel marketing and fulfillment and pick and pack. And so we've kind of reinvented ourselves along the way, as I'm sure you guys have along with your product lines. But honestly, the biggest change is probably at least 2 or 3 recessions, and then of course, COVID hitting last year. It was a tough situation. So what you see is a lot of companies, all right, in our industry that kind of get bought up, kind of get sucked into and tucked into other companies because maybe smaller firms can't come out of that recession or can't come out of the COVID situation, and so. What turned from many different printers in the area over years are now have gone down to a few, but I think the few that are left are really strong and they know what they're doing. They got a great background, a lot of knowledge, a lot of people.
Before I ask this next question, I want to do a quick cheers because it's a pleasure to have you, Doug. We've been meaning to do this for a
Thanks,
while.
guys. Cheers.
So cheers. So my next question, I want to kind of tee off in a funny way, but my first week at Randall a couple years ago was our partner appreciation event. And I have to say that is drinking from the proverbial fire hose if you've ever had one, because it's just everybody we work with in the print industry. And Doug was probably the first person outside of Randall, I think, that I met that night.
Sure.
And obviously you're meeting so many people. It's just insane. And Doug and I talked for like an hour, and then he walked away, and I'm like, Jake, like, what just happened? Like, what did I get myself into? Like, give me some background a little bit. But we had a great conversation. That's all that I remember. My point in all this was I just couldn't believe how welcoming the print industry was and people in the industry itself. Do you kind of have that same feel a little bit?
Yeah, that is. I think it's very important. It kind of touches on the relationship with Burton Mayer to Randall in terms of the people that you work with from the front office, from sales, project managers, customer service, all the way through the shop, pressman, bindery. The cool thing is you find that everybody is really down to earth, and we're very quality oriented. Everyone is. I know we all have our different shops in this city, in this state, but honestly, I really think that the stronghold in the Midwest here, pointing to our area specifically, is people want to do a quality job. And they know that their customers demand that. And so that's what you find in these people that you meet in the industry, no matter what company you go to. And you'll find that, wow, they really care about their job. They really care about the end product, how it looks, and how it looks to their client. Always keeping that client situation in mind. But yeah, everybody is. I think that's why I stayed in the business. I wasn't made for high finance, corporate, banking, and all of that stuff. I really wanted to get into sales and marketing, and I think you find your comfort zone there, and this industry helped with that immensely.
There's a certain person that's built for building relationships at the bar too. I mean, I think that was a big thing too. That I'm finding a lot in the print industry is that's where the relationships are built. So I was actually, that was my next question, was going to be one of the reasons that you really stayed in the industry. It seems to be that it's because of the relationships.
You do. You establish them, and being on the sales side, you establish relationships with your customers, and you want to. I think that's very important nowadays. It really never left. There are times when this business gets really competitive, and so sometimes the perception from the production side, from the manufacturing side of having a printing company, it's dog eat dog out there, and it's just price based, and you go through those ebbs and flows over time. But honestly, those are short lived. Customers really, in my experience, do want to establish a relationship with you, and the more you can provide value on what they need, the more they're going to stay with you. That's the cool thing.
I mean, one of the things that we're seeing a lot at Randall too is your, call it, proverbial print buyer,
right?
Isn't a print buyer really. I mean, it's
not anymore.
They're getting tasked with 19 other things, and I think that's part of it too, where there's a certain level of relationship or trust that's established where they're like, hey, I can hand this off to you guys. I trust that you're going to do a good job, put me in the right direction so that I can focus on other mission critical stuff.
Exactly. I'm learning that as well. You never stop learning when you're in this business, because when I first started, and we're talking late 80s and into the 90s, most of the print buyers were they were production, labeled production managers at whatever company, whether it was a marketing firm, et cetera. And they bought print, and that was it, and that's all they knew. And so your mindset at that time kind of became, well, I have to go after print buyers. I have to go. Boy, did that change as the digital world and technology came in, and it became easier for everybody, other people, to buy print and coordinate. Yeah. And now I think, like you guys are saying, I mean, you're seeing it more on your end, how data specialists and people who are involved in data, how they need help in interpreting that and then transforming it into how do we get the printed word out to these customers.
So elephant in the room a little bit. We have to talk about like last year and kind of how last year went for printers. It was pretty devastating at first, and then it seemed like a lot recovered. So how did that go for you guys at Burton?
Yeah, same. I think, and I, you talked. There's everybody tends to be a friend in this business. 20 years ago, you're kind of like fighting against each other and fighting for every job. And honestly, it's morphed into where everybody in this business, all the printers, all the competitors, aren't as crazy competitors anymore. Everybody wants to learn from one another. So everybody I've talked to affected everybody the same way. I think it's rare if you find somebody out there who said, boy, we either stayed steady or grew last year, because I don't think anybody did. It hit us too, but you know what? We survived. We had really strong customers, and they stuck with us. And yes, business was down overall, but boy, we saw a really good first quarter this year coming back, and that's what we're seeing, from here on to the rest of the year. But yeah, it was a tough one for sure.
This might be kind of a weird question, but do you think that any good came out of the pandemic? Like, did it change maybe some of the way you guys thought about processes or the way that you guys handled things?
Yeah, I think overall, what you look at is you can handle more work with a few less people. I think our management and ownership understood that, as well as a lot of other businesses around the area. But we do see a resurgence in the long-term outlook for the rest of the year. Is we're seeing a lot of projects coming, so we want to get some people back. But yeah, I think you find out how many people can work from home, and who can't. Obviously, your manufacturing can't, but your office staff, your support staff, your project managers, your CSRs. So I think you learn from a business standpoint what you're able to handle and with how many people. As far as big picture thinking, I think it makes you, as a printer, as a print manufacturer, and I shouldn't say the word printer all the time, because we're more than that. Everybody is. Everybody in our businesses, as communications providers, I think what you're finding is everybody, is, at least from the sales side, started going after some of the customers they may not have heard from in a while, some older accounts, and also diving into some new avenues. So I think that is the good that came out of it. It made you really think as a corporation and as a sales team. Hey, this is a time to kind of, all right, let's tighten up, pull in the reins, and go after certain avenues that maybe we weren't going after before. So we have gotten some new accounts out of it.
Yeah, and inside the building, everybody's building, it's also the work from home became a little bit more custom because it had to be,
right?
And I think a lot of businesses found out, people can work from home. I, coming from a work from home background before coming to a Randall, I'm obviously a big advocate for being flexible with it and having that. I mean, and it seems like it was really well taken too.
Yep, absolutely.
I think the other part too, as far as our customer base, as a collective print industry goes, it seemed at first, obviously nobody knew what was going on, pause all marketing activity, and then, oh wait, everybody's at home. We should be marketing to them via print.
Huge. You hit it on the head, Alex. I mean, it's that's one of the things that we've seen. Okay, over the last 15 months, a huge influx in direct mail, because that's where you're hitting them. You got to target them at home. They're no longer at the office. They are coming back. I think that's evident. But I think overall, many different customers, are huge client base that we have, a huge influx in direct mail campaigns and the supporting campaigns that go along with it.
Yeah, and I think it speaks a little bit too to just sort of the digital fatigue that exists today. Like how much time when you're working from home are you spending on Zoom, on email, and all these different things. So I think it's another way to kind of reach your customers without
differentiate. Yeah. You see the same stuff at your computer. It takes, a millisecond to delete that ad. However, when you have a tangible piece in your hands and it's at the mailbox, that spends so much more time with you in your hands, on your kitchen counter, wherever, and it sticks with you. So,
well, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think kind of as far as our customers go, who the decision makers are today, who you're talking to in the sales process. So I think we're kind of getting along this track, but as far as an industry, we know that there's a big need for more young people being in the industry. Millennials in print, we have to talk about millennials and young people getting into the industry. What are kind of your thoughts on that? What successes have you guys maybe seen at Burton in doing so, and what do we need to do as an industry to attract more young people into the industry?
Excellent questions, and I think every print manufacturer in the area is asking that same question, and everybody's kind of scrambling for answers. But what we've found is probably very similar to some of the programs you guys have instituted. What you want to do is reach out to the educational, community, and I would like to see us get more into the high schools and start to promote our programs. That's one thing. But I think right now, if you're looking at kind of a quick, easy answer of what do you do and what have you done lately over the last few years to attract young people or people out of colleges, start with Stout. That's a huge tap into that particular university, and it's I think everybody knows that you can get people from there and you get them interested because that's a specific educational facility that concentrates in the printing industries. That's a good, and then everything there kind of networks. Printing Industries, GLGA, Printing Industries of America, all of the support organizations are a help. I think what we need to do as an industry is continue to promote from within. So when you have those entry-level positions, whether they're out in the shop and they're in shipping and receiving, or maybe they're in entry-level in the mail department or in the bindery, or even as a floor help in the press room, keep those people interested, all right? And how you do that is incentivize them. And so you find ways as a company to make sure that you're keeping them interested enough, and also to give them other avenues than where they just started, So that's a huge thing. And we've got a really good crew, and you get an ebb and a flow, right? Maybe we had 10 people that were in their early to mid 20s a few years ago, and maybe it's down to 6 people for whatever reason. They move on, or they're just interested in something else. But the ones that you do keep, especially we've got a few people in the office that were on a sales training program, and they start out in maybe in the layout department or pre-press or in simple graphics, and from there, they migrate into a sales training program, maybe get into customer service and project management. And you have to give them good incentive to stay. Well, and not just monetarily, but a real defined program on how you want them to proceed, and some opportunities in different areas within your company. I think trying to get young people interested in graphics, in visual communications, again, you're fighting against the obvious with the internet and every other social media that's out there. But if you can somehow get them interested in print as well, then you've got that kind of that marriage between the two, and the navigating everything together. Your end customer ends up benefiting because you've got some real good background here that young people are already learning, and then you can teach them this background, and then your end customer says, "Wow, this is great. Look at the package you put together for us."
Yeah, like positioning the industry more than just print, like you talked about earlier. Harking right back to what you said, is you need to position it as a communications provider, as a marketing company for marketing companies, right? And for other businesses. Exactly. I think that's something that the industry as a whole seems to be evolving towards. I would think like we're all we've been so focused on our clients and making sure that their marketing material turns out so great, and then we forgot about ourselves a little bit, right? Which happens.
That's
it happens.
Absolutely it. I think sometimes the mentality is just put your head down and bulldoze your way through and get take care of your clients first. Take care of your clients. Well, what happens is all of a sudden, the average age in our industry catches up with us. We've got so many people retiring or very nearing that. And then all of a sudden we went, oops, who's behind them? Now we have to scramble and train and keep. And so, I think we're starting to right that ship and get it in the correct direction as an industry here. But we've obviously got a lot of work to do on that.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool opportunities too with that is there seems to be, like to your point, people that are kind of let's call it the twilight of their career.
Sure.
And then you've got some younger people coming in, which is to me a really cool opportunity to bring sort of these different ideas and knowledge.
Right.
To pass on that knowledge, I think is awesome. But then, like to your point, you have 38 years of knowledge in this industry. So me coming in and not knowing anything, to pass that along, and then I think that's a really powerful combination.
Right.
Of innovation and then these sort of, just an insane amount of experience. That
Absolutely. No. And we talk about that all the time at our place, as a sales team and a marketing team. How can we better impart that knowledge that we have to our younger staff, our younger people that are getting in the business or have been in there? And, how do you also instill a sense that, hey, our industry is strong. Yes, we've taken some lumps over the last few years as a whole, but it's a constant challenge to get your labor force to also buy in and also want to be a part of what you're doing. And I think, I've seen you guys go through it. We're going through it. I think a number of companies our size around the area have gone through it, and I do see it very strong. I see everybody getting stronger in those areas in order to concentrate to make their, the industry healthier.
Yeah, I think you talked about the meshing of, some of the more seasoned or veteran employees and then younger too. I think you're always going to see what's old is new again too. I think when people around 2010, we saw the social media, everything digital, customer service isn't even going to exist. It's all going to be run by robots. But we're completely like, no, you need a customer service team. Yeah. You're always going to kind of need that ingrained. So there's things like that where I think we might have gotten rid of, the bigger events back in the day. Right. And then now we're in a post-COVID time. Maybe we need to bring those back again and get people kind of together again. We only have a couple industry trade shows now, which, are great now, but I don't know. That's just kind of what I think is when you mix the new with the old, you're gonna take ideas from both.
Totally agree. To me, that's a great combination. You have to embrace the new and embrace the technology and that type of change and different viewpoints, but also know what has worked for you, and let's integrate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think, in just keeping with our timeline here, I think we can kind of start to wrap up the show a little bit, but I wanted to kick it to you if you had any kind of final thoughts, anything we didn't cover. You can ask us questions. We can do the reverse, whatever you want to do. Do you have any final thoughts or anything?
Well, the cool thing is, number one, thanks for having me in. I enjoy talking about print. I love the industry. I love my career, my job, love the company I work for, but I also like creating partnerships. None of that would be as exciting if I didn't enjoy creating partnerships in long-term friendships, because it really is, and I'm sure you guys have oodles of customers that you can talk about that you're really good friends with, besides being, a provider, a vendor. And I think it's cool. It's a great working relationship, and it's fun. So that's why, and that's one of the things that I like to tell young people in the business is the reason why you get into this is because you want to, you're going to be working probably for a long time, unless you win the lottery.
Longer than you think, probably.
Exactly.
Right?
And why not do it in a business setting, a company, and an industry that you enjoy, a profession you enjoy? And so I try and mentor, some of our younger people and take them with me on sales calls and, different meetings and press checks and just pre-planning. And a light bulb goes on and they understand, hey, this is pretty cool. We all need this. It's not going away. And I think the industry is great, and I think it's strong. We're going to keep it going.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks again for joining,
Yeah,
Doug.
thanks,
Yeah, really
guys.
appreciate
Cheers.
it, man. Thank you, guys. Stay
Yeah,
tuned for the next
cheers.
episode. Final cheers. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank
and
you.
We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks for having me.